welcome back to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman, and we are here to preview the Big Ten championships for wrestling taking place on Saturday and Sunday, March 9th and 10th. Can't believe it's here already, and no one better to talk about Rutgers wrestling, the season that was and the postseason ahead, other than Erik Vesper, our guy on the beat. Erik, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Aaron, thanks again for having me. Looking forward to talking some more wrestling with you.
Absolutely. So the regular season is over. I can't believe it. Early March, Rutgers with a fairly successful regular season, struggled in some matches where they potentially could have gotten over the hump a bit. What are your overall thoughts of this team and this season so far?
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. That's a really good way of summing it up. They finished 12-5 overall, with 4-4 in the Big Ten. So right in the middle of the Big Ten, they finished 7th in the Big Ten, 14th nationally. So another solid Goodell year. I mean, you do like to be in that upper half of the Big Ten. So anything 7 and above is better than what we've seen in the past couple of years. They had some notable wins. They had 2 ranked wins only, actually, out of the 12. But still, they scored 30 points on a Big Ten team for the first time since joining the Big Ten when they took out Indiana. They beat them 30-11. And then they also took out number 18 UPenn 22-14 back in early January. They had wins in the conference against Purdue and Michigan State as well. And then for some notable losses, they're all ranked. We got Virginia Tech, number 12, number 11 Minnesota, number 9 Michigan, number 6 Ohio State, and then number 1 Penn State. So all ranked guys, mostly in the Big Ten. We got that out-of-conference loss with Virginia Tech. And the bummer that comes again is what people talk about is they were very, very close to picking up wins over Minnesota, Ohio State, and that aforementioned Virginia Tech, which really would have swung the season around and made it a special season. Finishing 6-2 in the Big Ten would have been awesome. And they were literally just 1 or 2 matches away that they were favored in those Minnesota and Ohio State duels from getting over that hump. So good season overall. You like to see the progress, younger team, things, all that stuff considered. But, and the other thing I always want to mention, they had 9 home duels this year, which was awesome compared to the 4 they had last year. And they still averaged over 4,000 people for every match. So people still want to see the product. Got to keep growing it. Got to get some guys on the top echelon. We remember when the Ashnolts and Surianos were there, rack was packed all the time because they liked seeing the top level talent. I think we're getting there soon. So overall, good season, but always like to see some more improvement.
I think well said. And Rutgers wrestling, there are a lot of diehard fans of this program that have followed it for a long time and seen the rise. And, there were some frustrations out there this year that they were unable to win some of those ranked duels. But we've talked throughout the year, and I've always been excited about this time now because I think that some guys can really shine here in the postseason and specifically just headed into the Big Tens to see what this team can do, see how many guys can get berths to the NCAA championships in a couple weeks, and then just, as a team, how they can compete at that level. As you know, in this sport, sometimes, dual performances and individual performances are not the same level. And I still think that this team can really perform at a high level now entering the postseason.
I agree. They're well balanced. They do have some higher end guys on the front end and the back end, like we talked about even before the season started doing our preview. But it's going to be how those guys could do in the wrestlebacks, right? That's part of the Big Ten tournament. Only one guy can win. But still, as we'll talk about later, many guys will automatically qualify at each weight class because the Big Ten being the upper echelon conference in wrestling, you get a lot of automatic qualifiers for each weight. So you have to be able to bounce back from a tough loss early because the odds are with the seeds that Rutgers has, they're going to take a tough loss early. It's going to be something you're going to have to bounce back from, and you're going to have to make your run in that consolation bracket to earn your place at nationals where you can really make some noise.
Excellent point. And let's just get into it. We'll go weight class by weight class in terms of just assessing how the starter did this past season and just in terms of their seeding and bracket for the Big Tens this weekend and your outlook projection for how they might do. So just in terms of this team, let's start at 125 pounds. Dean Peterson, currently ranked 22 and seated in the Big Tens at, 9. So overall, what are your thoughts on his performance this season and just in terms of the Big Tens?
Peterson had a very, he peaked very early in the season. He was ranked as high as number 2, back in early January, and probably was a little aggressive, but that was kind of the chaos that was going on at 125 at the time. Everybody was beating everybody, and he was still undefeated, I believe, at that point. So after he took a loss to Matt Ramos from Purdue, who's the number 1 ranked guy in the country, we saw a little fall off from Peterson. He finished 11-5. He finished 4-4 in the Big Ten. He does have a big notable win that I think 9 seed isn't great, but if he didn't have this win, I think he would have fallen even a little lower. Was Patrick McKee from Minnesota. I think McKee is ranked 4th in the country, and he got the 4th seed also in the Big Tens. So that was a big win for him. He also took out number 29 early in the season, Dom Mendez, kid from Cal Poly, who looked very tough at the time, and I'd never really heard of him. And it's good to see he's ranked. He's making some noise. But it was always, like I said, it was a volatile 125 weight class. And now's the time where somebody like Peterson could really go to work, because I do like him as a tournament wrestler. He's very sharp with his technique. As you said, he got the 9 seed. He's got a rematch in his first match against the 8th seed, Brandon McCrone of Ohio State. McCrone beat him, 7-1 when they wrestled Ohio State earlier this season. I've said it in the past. I really like Peterson the second time he wrestles somebody. I feel like he makes really good adjustments, and he'll need to do that here. But again, this is what we were just talking about. If he does fall here, it'll be important for him to jump back in and make a solid run on the consolation bracket. As I look at the allocations, I wish I had them memorized, but I don't. The Big Ten has 9 at 125. So he is right now holding an allocation spot. So if he just wrestles straight to 9th, straight to his seed, he'll be at Big Tens. I know he wants to do better than that, and I think he can do better than that for sure. So Peterson, we got a good chance to see a good run out of him, but we'll have to put it together.
And just to point out, too, in terms of the allocations, 9 for 125, even if you can still earn out large depending, correct? In terms of if he did finish 10th, there is a chance that he could sneak in.
Right. So they're giving 6 at-large bids. So every conference across the country, those 6 are spread out amongst everybody. So you don't really want it to come down to that. Now, Peterson probably has a good enough resume that he could get in on one of those at-large bids, but it's not worth risking. We've had kids in the past that looked like they were shoo-ins to get one of these at-larges, and then they don't, and your season's just over because you left it in the hands of somebody else, right? Wrestlers are big on keeping everything controlled, keeping everything in their hands. And when you leave it to somebody on the outside, things can get disappointing. So hopefully he'll earn one of those automatic 9 spots and won't have to worry about the 6 at-large. But like you're 100% right. It is a little lifeline that's out there if he needs it.
All right, moving on to 133 pounds, the highest seeded Rutgers wrestler in the Big Ten since Anthony Ashnault, Dylan Shaver coming in at number 2. An impressive season so far. What are your thoughts on what he's done and what he can do still to come?
Yeah, just as you said it, just the most impressive wrestler on the team this year for me by far. Shaver moved up from 125 to 133. So always question marks when you move up a weight, and he's answered the call big time. I mean, on the season, let me see here. He's 19-5, so he wrestled the most matches on the team by far. Before we got on here, you and I were going back and forth a little bit about how wrestlers just don't wrestle as many matches as they used to. Shaver's kind of the antithesis of that a little bit, getting 24 matches this year. Finishes 6-2 in the Big Ten, so great Big Ten showing. He had some tough losses at the end of the year, but he also had 6 ranked wins, and that's really impressive, including top 10 guys in Michael Koliako and Nick Bouzakis of Ohio State. So that earned Shaver up in the 2nd seed, as you said, highest since Ashnault. It's a big deal. He gets a bye in the first round of the Big Ten, so that's something we don't see too often. And he'll have a rematch no matter what. So he'll have the winner of Braxton Brown from Maryland or Caden Brooks from Indiana. He would rather face Rooks, I'm sure, because he beat Rooks a 22-5 technical fall during their duel this year, while Braxton Brown was a little bit closer. He beat him 9-5 during their duel towards the end of the season. But I think Shaver's ready for anybody. He's got that nasty high crotch. He's been by far the most consistent, as I said, on the team. And I'm excited to see what he can do in a tournament style like this when he really can just, not have to worry about the team. There was one of the losses he took this year. I think it was against Ohio State, where he was just trying to get a pin because that's what the team needed for the win. When if he wrestled his style of a match, I think he had a better shot of winning. With that said, don't really have to worry about the team anymore. Focus on you, focus on advancing, and he has a real good shot to make some noise this week. Oh, and for the allocations there, I apologize. We have
and how much do you look at a guy like him? 7. So how much do you look at a guy like him in terms of obviously you want him to compete for the Big Ten title, but how important too is it just from a seeding perspective at nationals for him to have a good weekend, finish, say worst case top 4 in the Big Ten to be able to get a better seeding at nationals?
Yeah, that's huge, Aaron. I mean, getting a top 8 seed at nationals is gigantic. Top 12 is good too, but if he can make an impressive run this weekend and finish in that top 4, he has a good shot of making the finals. And in the finals, we'll have a kid he wrestled twice this year, and Dylan Raguzin from Michigan. And they've been some tight matches. So, I mean, Chauver has a chance. It's hard to beat anybody 3 times, right? We always say that. So he has a good shot. Now at Nationals, I wish I had a better idea. It's funny, people always argue online and try to figure out how the heck they actually do see these guys at Nationals, because sometimes it seems like they just throw it up in the air wherever the guys land, they do. But yeah, I mean, at a higher seed in Nationals, because they do seed 1 through 33, it's really important because you're going to wrestle a guy to a seed. They used to only seed, I think, 16 spots, and then it could have been random. Like, it could have been the number 1 guy is wrestling the 17th ranked guy when he's supposed to be wrestling like the 33rd ranked guy. So, got to keep that in mind. It's very important to get a high seed because you are going to get that level opponent more or less going through. So, happy where Chauver's at and excited to see what he can do, though.
141, Mitch Moore, the transfer from Oklahoma, has battled some injuries in the middle of the year, has been back now, and has the 7th seed going into Big Tens on this weekend.
Yeah, like you said, Mitch Moore did have a little bit of an injury bug this year. I'm not sure, because I think it was a knee, if I'm not mistaken. But, you know, he started off real strong. I think he was 10-0 to start the season, so he really stormed onto the scene. I was really impressed with him. We talked about how he wrestled really mean, right? A lot of those front headlocks where he's grabbing the chin underneath and really just making the guy uncomfortable. Ran into some hiccups once the Big Ten schedule was started, which happens to a lot of guys. I mean, the Big Ten is just different. But he finished 12-3. So solid overall record, 2-3 in the Big Ten. His biggest win was over number 17, Malik Hines of Lehigh, who he beat in a mid-season tournament. I think it was the Matman Open, I think. And then he also took out CJ Composto of Penn. And he also, this is a fun stat, I didn't even write down the guys' names, but he also took out number 25, 26, and 27 ranked guys from Minnesota, Michigan State, and Maryland, respectively. So the lower echelon of the Big Ten felt the wrath of Mitch Moore. And like you said, he's got the 7th seed here. Interesting on the pre-seeds so he would normally go up against the 10 seed, but the Big Ten listed 2 guys tied for the 9th seed. So they have Dan Fongaro of Indiana and Vance Vombar of Minnesota. Moore did not wrestle Fongaro. He was injured for that match. And he has a loss against Vombar. Oh, wait, does he have a... No, I'm sorry. He beat Vombar 4-1. So he, depending how this shakes out, he'd probably rather see Vombar. Fongaro looked really nasty when he came in and wrestled. So he's a little bit faster, kind of anti-Moore style. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I don't know how they're going to figure that out, if they're just going to do a coin toss or something of that nature. But we'll see. I mean, he's seen now the gauntlet of the Big Ten. He sees what it looks like. He's wrestled some tough guys, and it's not going to get any easier. So he's got to step it up here this is one of those examples of why the Big Ten is kind of nice to wrestle sometimes. They're getting 11 automatic bids at 141. Wow. So he's in right now based on his seed. That means they're going to go to the 9th place bracket, which means you can lose twice and still be alive to finish, to get an automatic qualifying spot. So it'd be a disaster if Moore didn't get in. But he has a good shot. Like I said, he's got that mean style. He does have some shots, too, that he doesn't go to as much. But I think he should go to those a little more often. But we'll see how it works out for him. I mean, like I said, we have either Fongaro or Vombar. I don't know what to think, but with 11 automatic qualification spots, I have a good feeling Mitch Moore is going to go there. And then they have the at-large, and then 6 more at-large bids. So Moore's got a good shot of dancing. And he'll be there.
Do you think that impacts the weight class in terms of the decision making, where maybe guys are a little bit more looser or willing to take chances because there's so many allocations for the spot?
That's a really excellent point, and I really didn't think about that until now. But yeah, I mean, why not go for the big move against the guy that you're not supposed to beat, just because you have a lot of that built-in cushion where you can lose 2 times and still be able to have your destiny in your own hands to make it for nationals. So yeah, I definitely would see that, and I would expect, Mitch Moore's a real good example of that because he has some big moves. He likes to jack guys up, get the upper body going and stuff. So yeah, maybe he goes for a throw that he wouldn't normally go through. That's a really good point, Aaron. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Like I said, I feel like every year too at Big Tens, there's always a Rutgers guy that kind of surprises and makes a run that was kind of unexpected. So, I think you're right. We were really impressed with him in the beginning, and obviously injuries impacted that. But yeah, he's a guy I think definitely could make a surprise run. Moving to 149, Michael Seta has, I think been pretty solid in terms of just stepping in this year in a role that he wasn't expected to fill. He comes in at seed number 10 for Big Tens on Saturday. What are your thoughts on how he kind of handled his new role this year?
Yeah, Seta to me is the second most impressive wrestler on this team this season. Stepped into a role that he wasn't well, at least nobody was expecting for him to step into it, right? Jacob Butler, big time recruit big time transfer coming over from Oklahoma, was supposed to have the spot locked up. Unfortunately, he tore his I think ACL back in early December and hasn't really been able to go since then. So it's been the Seta show, and he's come out. And he's a wild man. He shoots. I know Goodell loves him because the guy just shoots, and Goodell loves the action when the guy's going. And Seta's got some big wins this year. He beat number 10, Dylan D'Amelio from Ohio State, sudden victory, 12-9. And he also took out Riders Quinn Kinner, Jersey boy. He beat him 8-6. So, like you said, he has a great motor. He's always attacking. And with the 10 seed here, he picked up Joseph Zargo. I think he's a senior from Wisconsin. Those two don't have any history. From what I saw, they haven't wrestled before. Zargo's been around a long time. He's a smart wrestler from what I remember seeing him when he's been in Wisconsin for a while now. But Chet is one of those guys. He just keeps it close, keeps it tight. I mean, he's had a couple rough losses against people that were clearly superior to him. But I think he wrestled Bo Bartlett really tight, if I'm not mistaken. It was a very tight match. So, oh no, not Bo Bartlett. The 49er Kasich from Penn State. He wrestled him real tight. So we'll see. I haven't seen Seta in really a tournament setting, I don't believe. So, but again, he's one of those wrestlers that's kind of built for a tournament, can make an upset somewhere, really get in somebody's head. And I really think he'll be doing good at bouncing back too. If he takes one of those early losses, seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders and has that forward-thinking, attacking mode, which is all you want this time of year. So Seta has been very impressive to me. I don't think I gave his record. He finished 13-8 and 4-4 in the Big Ten. So he wrestled every single Big Ten match. For a guy that wasn't expected to come in and do that, I was really, really impressed. And I do want to shout out, it's officially happened. After 2 years of trying, Joey Olivieri was able to take his red shirt. We haven't been able to get that done because Sammy Alvarez kept having to step out of the lineup due to weight issues, but it's official. Joey Olivieri completed his red shirt, so we're happy for him. He'll be back in the lineup next year. We're excited to have him. And I know you were saying that a wrestler for Rutgers generally steps up in the Big Ten, and we got to shout out Mike Van Brill, right? Because in the past 5 years, he's been the guy. I think 2 third-place finishes kind of out of nowhere, hitting some really slick moves that only Van Brill really knew how to do. So those were really impressive runs, and Mike Van Brill gave the fans a lot of fun memories on the banks for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely had the flair for the dramatic. Moving on, hopefully Cheddar does as well. Moving on to 157, you have Al DeSantis, who also stepped into a role not expected this year. He's the number 11 seed.
Yeah, Al DeSantis stepped in for Andy Clark. Andy Clark was going to be, and I hope I didn't put a jinx on him, but he was my guy in the preseason to watch. I thought he was really going to climb the rankings this year. Unfortunately, I think he only saw like 3 matches or so. He was injured to start the year and then never could really make his way back. So Al DeSantis has been splitting a little bit of time at this spot, but it's now his show. He did have a nice win on the last dual meet of the year against Michael North, who I believe was ranked the last Big Ten duel of the year against Michael North from Maryland, who I believe was ranked like 29th or 30th at the time, and he majored him 13-5. So when DeSantis goes and he gets to his attacks, he's an impressive-looking wrestler, but there's also times he's taken some tough losses. And like you said, he's filling in. It's another guy that probably didn't expect to be in this role. And again, at least we didn't expect him to be in the role. And he's doing an admirable job. You know, he finished 6-10, 2-5 in the Big Ten. Not the best, but he keeps matches generally close. And that could be dangerous when you get to this Big Ten tournament. You know, if somebody like Al DeSantis is hanging around down 1 or 2 points at the end, and we got these 3-point takedowns, anything could happen. So he drew the number 6 seed, Chase Saldate from Michigan State. They wrestled earlier this year with Saldate earning a 9-5 decision. So not a blowout or anything by any means. But DeSantis is going to have to bring his best stuff to make any kind of impact this weekend. And we are looking at 9 auto qualifier spots. So he is out as it stands right now. So he'll definitely need to pull a couple upsets to make it to the dance, because I don't think Al is going to earn a at-large bid.
And I think we missed allocations for 149 also. How many are there?
Sorry. We have 9 at 149. So Instead of being 10 seed, he also has to get at least one upset somewhere in the tournament to make sure that he gets an auto spot as well, because I don't think Seta will earn an at-large. Well, maybe.
Now, moving through the middleweights here, 165. Anthony White jumped up two weight classes this year from 149. Struggled at times. He's the number 13 seed going into Saturday. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, Anthony he struggled this year. There's no like real great way to put it. I mean, he's had a rough season. He grabbed a bunch of wins, I think, early in the season and things like that. But he finished 10-11, 1-5 in the Big Ten. He didn't really have any notable wins that I could think of, and he looks plenty strong. He looks like he can handle it, but something's not connecting, and he's just had some issues. I mean, he's the lowest seeded wrestler at the Big Ten tournament. If you ask lowest seeded Rutgers wrestler at the Big Ten tournament, and I would bet my bottom dollar that if you asked Coach Goodell that earlier in the season, he wouldn't have thought that at all. So White had a lot of hype coming in, and just hasn't splashed this year. I'm not out on White, but he's going to have to change some things in the offseason. I don't know what it is, though, because he's in such good shape. He's never gassed by these guys. It's just something is not there, but I think he has the talent. He could do it. He's drawing another Michigan State guy, Caleb Fish, in the opening round. He lost 6-1 to Caleb Fish earlier in the season. So again, not a blowout, but when the only point you're generating is an escape point, you're not really in the match too much probably. So he's going to have to, bring his best stuff, maybe make a run on the backside in terms of auto qualifier spots. We have 10, so it's an impressive amount of all qualifier spots. And then what is this? 5 at-large bids. So, the opportunity's there. He's got to make the most of it. I think he's better than his 13 seed, but he has to prove it out there, and he's going to have to pull a couple upsets to, have a chance to get to nationals this year.
So moving through the weight classes, we the last 4, Rutgers has an opportunity to make some noise in all 4 weight classes, 3 in the top half, and starting with Jackson Turley at 174, number 6 seed, has certainly been a darling in tournament action in the past. What do you think he has left after this season in terms of being able to generate some more excitement here in the postseason now?
Yeah, I feel like this was Turley's most active season by far. I mean, he ended up with 15 matches, which doesn't sound like a lot, but with the injury-plagued years he had over the last 2 years, I don't think there was ever a match this year where he was held out for injury, maybe just a breather or something of that nature. It is notable, and I've told you earlier before we started that he and we'll talk about Poznansky later, didn't wrestle in any tournaments the whole season. So only dual meets. I don't feel great about that necessarily offhand, but Turley, like you said, is proven to be a tournament wrestler who can really, really make a Cinderella run. Now, it's kind of different this year. He's seeded 6th. He's not really needing to make a Cinderella run, considering we have 8 automatic qualifier spots there. So he's kind of just got to wrestle to his seed. It almost seems like Turley does a little better when he's, the underdog. So we'll see how he does with that. He's the 2nd highest seeded Rutgers wrestler at the Big Ten tournament with the 6th seed, which is impressive. He's been my 3rd most, use the word impressive again, wrestler this year, behind Seta and Shawver. But let's see. He's got notable wins. We all remember the DJ Donald Washington from Indiana earlier this year. He beat 15-0 in the second period tech fall. It was one of the more impressive feats of wrestling I've seen since I've been covering Rutgers. And he also has a win over number 30, Andrew Sparks of Minnesota, 7-4 in their dual meet from earlier in the season. He's drawn the 11th seed from a kid he just wrestled 2 or 3 weeks ago, Dom Solis from Maryland, and he only beat him 1-0. So when you ask me the confidence level I have and things with Turley to make some noise, I'm confident, but he's got to bring it right away. There can't be a lull in the first match, as he seemed like he had trouble scoring on this kid. The only point of the match was his escape point. Now, we all know Turley's an excellent rider to the point where people are really avoiding him on going underneath him at this point and choosing to go neutral. So he is generally up a point, if you think of it in that respect, in a lot of these matches, because he can generally get out from bottom. And if people aren't choosing bottom on him, it means they're not getting that escape point that comes with, the start of the period. So he's been very strong on top this year. We talked about he's got the wicked bow and arrow that looks like the most uncomfortable move in the world. And he'll have an opportunity to display it this weekend. So we'll see. Like I said, they got the 8 automatic qualifier spots and then 4 more at-large bids. So not a lot of at-large bids for this one. Turley's probably done enough to earn a at-large bid if necessary. But with only 4 going to all the conferences, throughout the country, that's another scary one. And just to put in perspective of Turley's season, he's finished 6-2 in the Big Ten. The 2 Big Ten losses he had were by 1 point. So he was very close to having an undefeated Big Ten regular season, which would have, I don't know how you don't put him second or third, seeding at that point, even though, he didn't wrestle against Penn State's best guy. But with that said, it is what it is. You wrestle who's in front of you, but very close to having an undefeated Big Ten season for Jackson Turley, which is another thing that I don't think anybody would have expected in the beginning of the season. But he's got a good shot to make some noise, and I really hope he brings it because he's one of the more fun guys to watch, and he's really fun on social media too. He's one of the guys embracing Nick Sirianno's Handsome Tuesdays, as we were talking about earlier. So happy Handsome Tuesday, everybody, to watch this on the day.
That's right.
Shout out to Sirianno.
Well, hopefully Soriano can bring this team some good vibes going into March postseason. Talking about 184, Brian Saldano, the number 8 seed. A little bit of an up and down season. Obviously, he showed a ton of potential in his career. Can he put it together and make a real run here now in Big Tens and potentially in Nationals as well?
Yeah, Saldano's a nightmare to wrestle in a tournament like this, right? A tournament where winning is very important, advancing is very important. And then you get a guy like Saldano who, when he wants to, will just 50-50 position you. Like, he'll get in a position where he's like, all right, let's go. Let's see who's going to come out on top of this. I'm willing to do it. Are you? And the hesitation that goes into that a lot of times is why he's able to come on top, despite his, he's got excellent technique, of course, as well. But, this year was a little different. Like, last year was definitely up and down, and last year was, like, up, and then it was down, right? And then we got to the postseason, and he brought it back a little bit, for sure, to finish, I think, top 20. But this season was a little more peaks and valleys. He's way more under control this year, as Coach Goodell decided or talked about in the preseason that he wanted him to be, wanted to develop more leg attacks, and he's done that. So he's looked like a solid wrestler. Definitely not all the hype that came in around him, because the hype was built on a lot of these crazy moves that we're learning aren't working out super great in college, but it's good to have in his back pocket. And I think that's where he needs to keep it, right? Like, get the fundamental stuff, see if you can take a guy down. And if you need to, you have this whole arsenal of these wild moves that most people won't see coming, but it can't be the first thing you're going for, because all their coaches are telling them right away, hey, watch out for this kid. He's a maniac. So with all that said, Saldano had a decent season, 13-7, 4-3 in the Big Ten. He had a pin over the number 3 seed in the tournament, Ryder Rogotsky of Ohio State. Pinned him, and those two, that was a fun match. They were flying all over the map before that happened. And he also has an early season win over Nate Dugan of Princeton, 5-4. I said in my notes here, he's had a quieter year, so that's nice. But still has had some really exciting pins. He picked one up over Maryland that was so impressive with the way he did. It was some kind of freestyle trip, and I don't even know how to describe it, honestly. Well, as you said, he drew the 8 seed here in the Big Ten. We all know the 8 seed, wrestles the 9 seed. I learned something cool, too. If you're ever doing a 14-person bracket, the first-round matchups always add up to 17. So that's how you know you're matching up the right guys. That's something I had to figure out while doing this research today. But he's got Troy Fisher. They wrestled earlier in the year at Midlands. Rutgers didn't wrestle Northwestern in a duel this year, but Saldano was one of the 6 guys that went out to Midlands. He lost to Fisher 9-4. I don't think I got to watch that match, but it just seemed like Fisher, grinded him out. Saldano wasn't able to get to his attacks, I would imagine. So we'll see a rematch of that here. With that said, I would expect Saldano probably be a little more wild, knowing that he probably in his head, has to do something a little different this time, considering how the other one turned out. But we'll see. Again, Saldano's not a wrestler I would want to see in a tournament setting. He proved it last year. He had some upsets in the national tournament as well. At 184 pounds, we are looking at 8 auto qualifier spots. So he is right now earned a spot with the 8th seed. We have 5 at-large bids available as well. Saldano needs to wrestle to his seed. He needs, if he takes a tough loss here in the opening round match on paper that he's supposed to win based on seeds, he needs to be able to flip that out and just make a big run on the back end, which I think he's capable of. I think Coach Goodell is in his head. I think he has some understanding what the team needs from him more. And again, I'm sure we're going to get some. It's just Saldano. We're going to get some Saldano ESPN highlight reel moves. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, those 2 memorable pens at Nationals last year was certainly exciting to watch, and hopefully he produces some more moments like that moving forward. And then 2 more weight classes to go here at 197. John Posnanski. Pos had a pretty good bounce back year, moved up a weight class. He's the number 6 seed at Big Tens. What are you looking from him, and kind of how do you think he's handled this year and the changes that he, having last year off and moving up the weight class?
I think he's looked great. I mean, especially for the first part of the season. What did he start? He started 12-0. Really just looked comfortable, looked very strong. He took some tough losses when the Big Ten tournament or Big Ten schedule rolled around. He finished 12-2, very impressive record, but 4-2 in the Big Ten, which is why his seed is at 6 when it probably should be a little higher. He has some ranked wins. He took out Luke Stout, the 12th ranked kid in the country, 8-4. Took out Cole Urbas of Penn, 18-1, technical fall. That's the 25th ranked guy. And then he took out number 27, Andy Smith, Virginia Tech, 4-2 earlier in the season. Now, if you notice something about those 3 matches, they're all out of conference, right? So we need Paz to bring this against his Big Ten opponents. He's got a decent seed here. He'll be going up against Gabe Sollers of Indiana. They wrestled earlier this year. Paz beat him 7-1. So he's comfortable with the guy. He got to his attacks a couple times. At 197, we have 7 auto qualifier spots with 4 at-large bids, so a little tighter than the other weight classes we've seen. And Paz did miss the last, I think, 3 competitions of the regular season with an illness of some sort. So if anything else, he's fresh. Hope he's not rusty, but he's definitely going to be fresh, ready to go. I don't think he's injured. He said he was still posting videos of him deadlifting like 1 billion pounds a couple weeks ago. So he's good in that sense. And I'm excited, man. Paz is a great tournament wrestler. And I feel like this is the first year in 2 years we're really going to be able to, maybe even longer than that, we're really going to see like a healthy Paz ready to go. As long as his head's screwed on straight and he's focused on his goal, which it seems like he is. 6 seed is low. I really think he can make a run here. Now, it's not a super top heavy bracket. Kind of guys a lot of mixed in. Like I believe the top seed is Bernie Truax, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll see. I mean, it's all guys that Paz can compete with. His second round match, if he would it be against the kid from Maryland, Jackson Smith, should he advance? Willie Saylor said it best this morning. He said the best Posnanski can beat the best Jackson Brown, but we haven't seen the best Posnanski probably since earlier this year. So he's gonna need to bring it if he wants to make some noise. But I'm always a Posnanski fan. He's such a good dude, and it really looks like he's super comfortable up at 197. So hopefully he can make some noise this weekend.
It's unbelievable that it was 3 years ago at this point that he was a freshman and made that surprise run, 3rd place in the Big Tens and 4th place at Nationals, and kind of been looking to recreate that magic ever since. But I feel like after last year, it seems like it's done him a lot of good, and certainly an intriguing guy to follow here in Big Tens. And moving into the heavyweights, the last class that we have not covered, Rutgers with as good of a shot at heavyweight as they've really had, and I don't know, maybe Billy Smith, maybe even more so here with Yaroslav Slavikowski, number 4 seed, the transfer from Harvard. He set out a little bit this year, but do you think? How do you think he is in terms of late? And do you think he's peaking and kind of at the right time and ready to make a real run here?
It's been interesting with Big Slav. A lot of people call him. I think that's one of his nicknames. I like calling him Yara. He's had an interesting season. He started off real strong. He was 13-0 to begin the season. He was teching guys left and right, putting up a lot of points. And then when the Big Ten portion of the schedule rolled around, it slowed down a bunch. And you expect that, facing much higher competition. Not going to just be, putting points on guys like it's nobody's business. But with that said, he did struggle. He had a couple losses late. He went 4-4 in the Big Ten, 14-4 overall. So all of his losses did come in that Big Ten schedule. And it's kind of surprising if I'm honest that he got a seed as high as he did. I really thought he was going to be like around the Paz range, like a 6 or 7 with these late season losses. He lost to Seth Nevels of Maryland, who was ranked, I think, like 28th or 27th at the time. And he also took a loss to the Penn State backup, who was bumping up from 197 in their match against him. And, Yara's not a small guy. Weigh-in sheets 242, 243. So he's on the bigger side of heavyweights, and he can move pretty well for his size. So in terms of peaking, I would have to say doesn't look great, but he's a solid, experienced wrestler who I think is built for tournaments. So I have a lot of confidence in him. This 4 seed is a blessing. You know, we're not gonna look at gift horse. I know I had said Turley was the second highest. I forgot about Yara. Yara is the second highest seed at 4. He'll have, God help me with this name, the 13 seed Peter Marinopoulos from Illinois. They haven't wrestled before from what I've seen. I don't know much about the kid Peter, but 13 seed Big Ten. Yara should do his thing, move on from there, and he's not going to have to wrestle a higher ranked guy potentially until the semis, right? So as long as he can keep it going, do what he needs to do, not give up a late takedown, which has been an issue in a couple of these matches, or just not being able to get to his offense when he needs to. Yara's an important piece for this team to have a big impact on this tournament and to finish to what their ranking is, and that would be in the top, half of the Big Ten. And if they're going to surprise people, they're also going to need Yara to wrestle up to a seed, get to the 4th, maybe pull an upset somewhere. I mean, I don't think he's beating Penn State's heavyweight, Greg Kirkvliet. That kid's looked impossible this year, or unstoppable, I should say. But with that said, I mean, I don't think a 3rd place finish is out of line for Yara. He can definitely hang with all these guys, maybe outside of Kirkvliet, and that's what we need him to do. So as long as he can do that, Rutgers can have a successful Big Ten tournament, man. Oof. 10 weight classes. That's a lot. Like, you say it early, and it's like, that's not going to be that much. A lot of guys, a lot of history. That was fun.
Yara's got a chance too. If the first round holds, he'll have a rematch with Neville's from Maryland in that second round. So
right,
in the quarterfinals,
right.
that would be
that would be a tight match too. It was a tight match, and I don't think here we go. The allocations, we got 7, so 7, and then 7 auto qualifiers, then 4 at-large bids. So again, a little lighter than some of the other weights. So he'll definitely need to perform. He's got a little bit of wiggle room, but if he wrestles to a seed, like I said, could be mean good things for Rutgers.
All right, that was a whirlwind. You did a great job. Just to wrap it up, let's talk about first any predictions or I guess expectations for this team in terms of team finish. And also, how many qualify for nationals?
Yeah, so I'm an optimist. My friends that are also Rutgers fans always accuse me of just being an eternal optimist, and I don't ever change that. Generally speaking, I think they're going to qualify. I think they're going to qualify 11. I think they'll qualify 11. What am I saying? Jeez, I think they're going to qualify 8. I think they can do that. I think Chetta gets in. I think maybe just lose out on DeSantis and White. But again, 7 would be a good season considering that the 2 spots that you're missing out on would be 2 guys that weren't supposed to be there, right? And then when the season started. So that's important to consider. And 7 would be solid going in depending on where they finish. And as a team, I think a 6th place finish is doable for the team. I mean, it would be crazy to get top 5. I don't think that's in the cards this year, but they need a couple more pinners on the team to get those extra points, those advancement points as you go. But with that said, a 6th place finish in the Big Ten tournament would be absolutely huge. I think even the year that Ashton and Siriano won, they were like 9th. So it's the best wrestling conference in the country. It's probably the best tournament in the country because all this concentrated, really good wrestlers. And I'm so excited for Saturday and Sunday. I've cleared my schedule, and we're going to be nothing but consuming wrestling for a couple of days, so it'll be good.
All right, last question for you, putting you on the spot. Any prediction in terms of, who will go the farthest, who will do the best? How many guys do you think might be in have a top 4 finish? I guess your expectations and predictions for any individual standout performances.
Sure. I think Peterson will finish much higher than his 9th seed. I have him top 4. So that's kind of my biggest stretch.
I like that one.
Yeah. Shaver, I also have top 4. I think there might be a situation where he drops one on the way. And then Pozdansky, I also have top 4. So those are my 3 like big, and they'll have to climb a little bit, but those are my 3 highest placing guys. And I've thought about it a little bit. I was considering putting Turley in there, but let's get Turley to wrestle to 6th seed, and I'll be very, very happy about that for sure. So but yeah, Peterson is probably my biggest jump. I really think he's going to really impress some people with his ability to bounce back. and show that maybe the 2 seed or the second rank overall in the country was a little high, but he deserves to be in that top 8, and he's right on the fringe of an All-American contender for sure.
I like all your predictions. My one sleeper is I'm gonna go with Mitch Moore at 141. I think he's gonna outperform his seed and have a big run here. But overall, thank you so much. So we're talking Saturday, Sunday, Big Ten Network, Big Ten Plus, Big Ten Championships all weekend for wrestling. It's at College Park, Maryland. I wonder how many Rutgers fans are going to be able to go. That would be pretty cool if we get a little bit of a turnout there. But definitely want to have you back after Big Tens to kind of digest it all, and then also look forward to nationals as well. Any final thoughts, closing thoughts you want to get out there before we wrap up?
No, for anybody considering making the trip, I did check it. It is only a 3-hour drive from around Piscataway, where the Jersey Mike's Arena. So if you want to make the trip, I unfortunately won't be able to this time. But it's rare. I mean, I think it was Penn State last year, and now it's Maryland. So after this, all the Big Ten ones will probably be out in the West, Midwest for a little while. So if you have the opportunity to go, it's a really fun tournament, especially the second day. Sunday's going to be awesome. And let's go Rutgers.
All right, Erik Vesper once again giving us great coverage of Rutgers wrestling. Thanks so much, and hope you enjoyed this preview. Hope Rutgers delivers with a big weekend, and we'll be back to cover that and more next on the Scarlet Faithful. Thanks so much for listening once again.